What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. We're calling it for now the Sooners on SI podcast. That's what our name is. We had a little rebranding in the off season, in the spring and the summer. Did a little rebranding. You can go to our website right now. Here it is. Are you ready? www.si.com/college/Oklahoma. Go there right now. Or if you prefer, just go on Google and type in Sooners on SI. We'll pop right up.
Bookmark that baby, though. Bookmark that baby.
We've been rebranded. We're still looking for sponsors. If you like this podcast and you want to sponsor, hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Hoover. By the way, this is Ryan Chapman. This is Randall Sweet. We are live at, as you can kind of see a little bit, SEC Media Days. We just wrapped up day 3 of SEC Media Days. Oklahoma went on day 2 of SEC Media Days. We were so busy yesterday. We wanted a podcast yesterday. Was uploading all that Sooner video, which you can find at Sooners on SI. That's the only website I can give you for now, Sooners on SI. Don't pipe in.com, it'll take you somewhere weird. But that's where you can find all of our content from the week. We were here Monday, we were here Tuesday, we were here Wednesday. It's Wednesday evening. We're going to be here Thursday as well. We're going to be here all 4 days. All 3 of us are here at SEC Media Days. We were joking earlier, it's been slipping on the tip of my tongue. Big 12 Media Days. I've been saying that for 25 years, you guys, so cut me some slack if it slips out wrong.
Well, and that's the, I was saying earlier, when you get into day 3 of SC Media Day, day 4 of SC Media Day, it's easier to talk about it because we didn't have a day 3 or a day 4. We were doing 2-day events, down and backs. We're still out here in Dallas, but I've enjoyed the Omni setup, and I think Brent Venables enjoyed it too because Oklahoma was pretty comfortable yesterday in their debut at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Randall, you told me as we were driving in here almost Monday morning, I don't know what to expect. It's Media Days, right?
Yeah.
You're settled in nicely.
Yeah, it was something very different, being at the Omni obviously last year, we're at AT&T Stadium on the field for Media Day, much different setting. This year, 4 teams per day, they kind of break that out into pods every day, 4 teams, and last year it was kind of jam-packed. You got half the teams on one day, half the team the other. You're there all day kind of doing that stuff. It was very different, but I like the process this year. It was very, I think, media friendly, the way that they organized everything. And yeah, I think, like Ryan said, the Sooners looked comfortable and confident in their debut at SEC Media Day. I think that energy really radiated off of all 4 of the representatives that came here to Dallas.
Yeah, LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt on the first day. Oklahoma went on day 2 along with Georgia, Tennessee, and Missouri. Love how they stick the old Big 8 rivals right together. Today was Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, and Texas. We'll talk about Texas a little bit later. And tomorrow is going to be Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, and Texas A&M. So they've kind of maximized the viewing potential by splitting these teams up the way they did.
It was kind of cool, though, because I think that Tuesday, Oklahoma Day, was the only day that all 4 teams are probably going back to their meeting room as they open up fall camp here in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Whether it's realistic or not all 4 teams are going to make the 12-team college football playoff, but I think all 4 of those teams believe they don't need like a bunch of stuff to break their way. I think that they believe if they just play up to their potential this season, they could. You obviously didn't have that with Vanderbilt on Monday. Today, Mississippi State, tough road to hoe with all the roster turnover for Jeff Lebby, all that stuff. And then tomorrow, I'm not sure that you've got that totally wall-to-wall, but especially Auburn, year 2, Hugh Freeze, all that stuff. So it was kind of a big marquee day, Tuesday and Wednesday, where you're 2 heavy hitters, and a big reason that's because Oklahoma was there.
Yeah, and Texas.
The new guys today. The new guys.
Although I will say, Shane Beamer sounds pretty confident that South Carolina has a shot at that playoff spot.
Shane Beamer's a great dude, and he can sell him the program.
You guys want to talk about the Sooners?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This is the Sooners on SI podcast, so let's talk about the Sooners. I've talked to a couple of national writers who both, 3 actually, just this afternoon, and all 3 guys said, wow, Brent Venables was impressive at his press conference yesterday. And, they did multiple press conferences. I got Brent, along with about 15 other local beat writer Oklahoma media, right? TVs and radios and newspapers. We got him for about 20 minutes, and then he went in the big room for, was it about 20 minutes? About 30 minutes. 30 minutes in the big room, and then 20 minutes in the smaller They call it the electronic room for whatever reason that is. We're all in the same rooms together. We're all electronic these days. But everybody that came out from those experiences with Brent Venables, I think they all said the same thing. He looks comfortable, he looks polished, he looks very confident, Randall.
Yeah, and it seems like obviously, he's more confident in himself now. He's done Big 12 media days as a head coach a couple times, taking this step into the SEC. But what I really took away from it was that Brent Venables has a lot of confidence in his team heading into their first season in the SEC. He mentioned that, Oklahoma's not running from anything. They're running to the SEC.
Yeah.
When asked, I think pretty much every coach this week has been asked about the competition level in the SEC, how that rises with Oklahoma and Texas. And Venables kind of acknowledged that while that competition level is high, that's what the Sooners want. That's what he hopes for this program. And, he talked about the influx of new players that they've had, not only this year, but through his first few years on campus. And it seems like Brent Venables now finally feels confident in where this roster is at. It feels like he thinks that they're in a good point heading into the SEC this season.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot for Oklahoma to consider going into year one of the SEC, Ryan. One is the depth on the offensive line. Everybody I talk to here says, well, what's their offensive line going to be? If they can just get a B level, I was talking to Josh Pate earlier, if they can just get a B or B minus level performance out of their offensive line, then they've got a chance. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think
is that really the key, the crux of the whole season for this Oklahoma football team?
Well, I think that, and this is not going to shock anybody, as you come to the SEC, that we're going to look at two spots on the field, and for Oklahoma, I think it's front of mind. The offensive line is absolutely the biggest question mark on this entire team. Losing Caden Green was a huge blow. Eli Drinkwitz talked about that. You're welcome, America. Sooners on SI, head over there. We're not going to
Both of you guys asked him about that. That was big time.
Yeah.
Big time questioning about Sooners on SI.
But when you look at that, it's just, we know Sexton. I feel like that's the only guy I do know. I feel like pretty confident that Femechi Wiwu from North Texas is going to come in and take one of those starting spots. One of the injury updates we did get from your little breakout was that Troy Everett is way ahead of schedule, that Brent Venables basically said there. So what does that mean for Everett and Branson Hickman, the SMU transfer, the post-spring guy? How do those guys fit in?
Garen Hatchett also practicing or
cleared
stuff cleared. He's doing stuff this summer. And by the way, Brent called him twice. He called him Jaron. I didn't know that. I thought it was Garen.
So that's going to be the big question mark, because for Jackson Arnold, a first-year starter, and you guys know this, he showed, I think, I went back this past weekend and watched the Alamo Bowl again, because I feel like the Jackson Arnold performance, well, I feel like the Jackson Arnold performance has become this big character in our minds. I want to go back, let's separate some fact from fiction. He had the 3 interceptions and the fumble. I truly think the first 2 interceptions in the first quarter were straight up, that's a freshman quarterback who's not had a full year to get acclimated to the timing of college football. The first one, laid over the middle, laid on the sideline. That's stuff that he's going to work his way out. The second, or the third interception, the one in the fourth quarter, he was forcing it because Jalil Farouk hung him out to dry and fumbled when Oklahoma was going to go in to go up, 13 or 17 or something big like that. Then the fumble was, again, Jackson Arnold pressing. So is the offensive line going to give him the time so that he can sit back in there and get the ball to Deion Burks, let Gavin Sawchuk run? You flip that over. A big question about the defense is going to be, okay, they added Dominic Williams to the interior of that defensive line. Is the defensive line going to hold up? Are they going to be able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks? If so, the depth and secondary should be able to show through. That's going to make Danny Stutzman, all those linebackers, their job a lot easier. Those are the two big question marks for me. The defensive line has to get more pressure. If Brent Venables comes into post games next year, this fall, and is talking about max protect 4 or 5 times, Oklahoma's going 7-5.
Right.
That's how it's going to go.
To your point about Jackson Arnold, I got to talk to him whenever he did his breakout interview there in the main room, and he even talked about in that Alamo Bowl game how it was a really awkward feel because he just had to step into that role. He said it still felt like DG's team. He said it still felt like DG's offense because those guys had been building that chemistry with DG, Dylan Gabriel all season. And so I think that he knows, and he even talked about it, that with an off season, with knowing that he's the starting quarterback, getting to work with the guys that are going to be in that starting lineup, I think that's going to really help him as well. And I think that kind of plays into what you were saying, Ryan, about some of those freshman mistakes he made against Arizona.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Josh Pate talked about today when I interviewed him for a story I'm working on a little bit later. Is he a turnover-prone quarterback, or were there extenuating circumstances that enabled those turnovers to happen, forced those turnovers to happen? So I think what Ryan said is spot on. There's a couple of things that happen in that game if Farouk doesn't fumble, if twice. Yeah, if they don't do certain things in certain positions, if one guy caught a pass, I think there was a big drop.
Brennan Thompson
was it a big drop?
On third and 4.
Was it third or was it fourth? I think it was fourth.
Oh, it might have been fourth.
I think it was fourth. That's right. But if a couple of things happen in Oklahoma's favor, they win that game, and we being the maybe I should rephrase, the national media might be looking at Oklahoma as an 11-win team, 11-2 last year. Wow. That close from playing in the Big 12 championship game in a rematch against Texas. If Oklahoma State doesn't come all the way back against BYU, if BYU doesn't crap down its leg against Oklahoma State, right, in that season finale, then it's Oklahoma playing for the Big 12 championship. And we might be looking at Oklahoma going into this season a little differently.
Yeah, it's just really interesting because I think, too, if that had happened, how many people do you think would have looked back and been like, well, hang on now, too, if they went 11-2 and maybe whatever they do against, theoretically, if they had played Texas in the Big 12, or even not, just change the Alamo Bowl result, they look back and they go, by the way, the only 2 games that Oklahoma lost are the only 6 quarters that Danny Stutzman missed all year long. I think that would have become a big talking point had they gone in there and shorthanded beaten a really good Arizona team in the Alamo Bowl. There's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, which changed the perception, which has been pretty interesting just because I understand as Oklahoma and Texas come into the SEC, Texas coming off a playoff appearance, all that stuff. Oklahoma lost their coach 1 year after they go to the SEC. It's almost like people are excited for Oklahoma, but Texas is the real prize. That's kind of how it's been talked about. You get here to SEC Media Day, and all the other media members wanted a piece of Oklahoma. It did not feel like Oklahoma's the afterthought. It felt very much like Texas may have had a better season last year, but I think everyone that covers this conference is like Oklahoma, Texas, they're coming in on maybe not on equal footing as how last year went, but the brands mean the same, which is a whole lot.
Right? And I think the coaches that were here this week, they also echoed that same sentiment because when they were asked about Oklahoma, when they were asked about Texas, they gave props to both schools, saying that both the prestige of both programs would just raise the competition level in the SEC. I mean, I think that's true if you look at where both of these programs are at right now. It's a 9-win team and a team that made the college football playoff last year. And the way that both of those teams recruit to, it's just going to stay like that, you'd expect.
Another person I talked to today, for just getting a national perspective on Oklahoma and Texas, was Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports. To me, fascinating stuff from him. He said, I think what you're seeing from this perception that Texas is more SEC ready than Oklahoma is a recency bias. Simple enough. But when I pressed him, he said, yeah, Texas probably is right now more SEC ready than Oklahoma. So there's kind of a dog chasing his tail a little bit. Well, are they the more SEC ready team when Oklahoma beat them last year, right? I mean, you want to go head to head, go back another year, 49-0, right? Oklahoma didn't have a quarterback for that game. So there's just, such a strange game. It's such an unusual game, OU versus Texas. When you take them both out of that scenario and throw them into the SEC, one's playing a really hard schedule, one's playing a little bit easier schedule, that's where I think you have to take the total big picture.
I think the interesting thing, too, is, and I don't think this ever gets talked about because we can't do nuance anymore.
Right.
Texas,
it's one or the other.
Texas is a team that is, if you just look at the theory of program building, they are 1 year farther ahead because Steve Sarkeesian, simply put, has been at Texas for 1 year more than Brent Venables has been back at Oklahoma.
Yep.
Texas went, 5-7 in year 1. What was it? They reeled off 8 wins in year 2. And in year 3, lo and behold, everything goes right. They're in the college football playoff. If Oklahoma was still in the Big 12, I think we'd be talking about how these teams might mirror each other. That you go 6-7 in year 1, you go 9-3 in year 2, and if you beat Texas in Dallas, suddenly Oklahoma has every chance possible to, in year 3, take that step forward. That's the context of Oklahoma. When we say 1 year behind, it is purely a timeline in the process. Now, the difference this year will be Oklahoma's play Tennessee, that's going to be a bore. They're going to play at Auburn, which is going to be an absolutely nuts environment. They have to play Texas, they get Alabama, they get LSU, they have to go to Ole Miss, they have to go to Missouri. That might be the difference in that linear path for Oklahoma and the linear path for Texas lining up and going over each other on a graph.
We talked to a guy yesterday who has a kind of a broader perspective on Oklahoma and Texas. He said he wouldn't be surprised to see Texas go 8-4 this year. That would surprise me with their schedule, with their talent. They've got some NFL guys. Sark said they're the deepest they've been. They're the most talented they've been. But Randall, let's talk about that. Texas. Sark, the story I wrote today was about those guys not having complacency, not suffering from complacency, going to the playoff last year, winning the Big 12 last year. Everything kind of broke right for Sark in year 3. This is year 4. What do you see from them? Again, the perspective from SEC Media Day.
I think a lot of people here at SEC Media Day think that Texas is going to come in and be able to compete right away. I think that with the transfers that they landed to replace some of those holes that they lost, obviously losing Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. Well, Texas went out and landed 3 wide receivers in the transfer portal, and guess what? They've been recruiting really well too. I think that a lot of these national media people, they see, like Ryan mentioned, that upwards trajectory with Sark, and they think that that's just going to continue when Texas steps into the SEC. I also think that people know now, and it's been mentioned here multiple times, 10-2, 9-3, that might get you into the college football playoff. And so I think that people know that even if Texas does stumble against a Georgia or again against an Oklahoma or whoever else might be on their schedule, that if they are able to get some of those big time wins throughout the season, that those losses might not matter as much. They might still be able to play their way through the college football playoff. And again, when you have as talented of a roster as Texas has, they're going to be able to hang around in most games.
Sooners on SI is where you can find it. Coach Nick Saban, how you doing? Good to see you. Coach is in the media now, and this is, of course, Media Days. We thought we'd give him a shout-out as he walked past. This is a fun place to hang out. We just saw Paul Feinbaum go that way. We're seeing all kinds of Tulsa World guys going back and forth, so it's fun. It's fun, SEC Media Days. Guess what, guys? It just means more.
It does.
It means more media, means more credentials. I think the count was 700 last year at Big 12 Media Days. There were 500 this year, but that was out in Las Vegas. Nobody wants to go all the way to Las Vegas for Media Days. We go to Vegas for other things, right? But here at SEC Media Days, 1,200 media credentials handed out for this thing. Again, it does mean more. We were looking at Radio Row 2014 or 2015, whatever that was. It was 2016 when we were here I was on my first radio gig.
I know you're old. So.
I'm old. But
2016, I was
it was Big 12
in high school.
I was Big 12 radio. It was Big 12 Media Days, and I was doing radio. And we went to Radio Row. We got a little setup, and there was probably 20 radio stations out there on Radio Row. There's probably 60 out here now. It takes up the whole. You don't have a perspective of what I'm talking about, but it takes up the whole from one side to the other room, and it's a big walking kind of a hallway that leads to all the different ballrooms here on the 3rd level. There's probably 5 times more radio stations here, 3 times at minimum, and that's just. I mean, think about that. From 700 Big 12 last year at Jerry World to 1,200 this year. It's crazy.
And I mean, it's remarkable. We were talking to some of the Big 12 media people last year, and them asking us, how we thought the OU media would be received here at Big 12 Media Day. And I think we were talking today, the OU beat has traveled just as well as the rest of these beats. But now it's unlike the Big 12 where the OU beat is the only beat that's like that. That's every beat now. That's every team that's in this conference now. They all have the same following that the OU beat does. And I think that's a really interesting change of perspective.
Here's another perspective for you. Right in that room right over there, right behind the camera. Steve Sarkeesian just finished his press conference, a couple hours ago. His final press conference. That's the small electronic media room over there. And when he got up, he walked out the side door, and media starts flowing out the other side door. And somebody behind me said, "That's the thing about Oklahoma and Texas being in the SEC now. It's like there's so many more media here." Okay, one, we're in Dallas, so that's true.
It helps.
It helps. Equidistant between, as we know, Austin and Norman. But yeah, too, there is a ton of interest in Oklahoma and Texas being in this thing.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they talked about this is the 3rd largest credentialed football event in the country. Number 1 is the Super Bowl.
Oh, man.
Number 2 is college football championship game, the CFP championship game. Number 3, SEC Media Day.
I would think the Combine, because the Combine literally kicks the doors open and lets everybody in.
Yeah, well,
they don't even check credentials.
That was a SEC rep that was saying that it's the 3rd largest credentialed football media event in the country. So
give you guys a quick pitch. Sooners on SI is where you can find the Twitter feed. Sooners on SI on Twitter. I'm at John E. Hoover. Ryan's at _ Ryan Chapman, and Randall is at Randall Sweet 5. All right. If you guys want to advertise with the Sooners on SI podcast, it's easy. Just send me an email. This is the email address, allsoonersi@gmail.com, or just DM me on Twitter at Johnny Hoover. Guys, final takeaways from SEC Media Days. Our first next year is going to be in Atlanta.
ton of great stuff that came out of it. Be sure you're hitting the website. Again, just Google Sooners on SI, bookmark that bad boy, si.com/college/Oklahoma. We've had, I mean, there's, the cool thing here too has been there are so much Oklahoma crossover with other schools. Shane Beamer, Josh Heupel, Jeff Levy. It's not the same. At Big 12 Media Day, we're kind of stressing like, how do you kind of shoehorn Oklahoma into some of this stuff? No, there's not that. So
what's Matt Campbell going to say about Oklahoma this year?
A ton of great stuff, not just the Oklahoma stuff, which we have overflowing. The injury updates, everything Brent Venables said, everything Jackson Arnold, Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman. Head up to the website. And as always, stuff all week long as we march on. We've got, a week and a half, 2 weeks till fall camp gets going.
Don't forget my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media, is where you can find all those videos. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I know that some people have been kind of tired of this, but I do think it's interesting to hear what every player has to say about Oklahoma, because pretty much every player from every team has been asked about OU and Texas, and I think that it's really interesting to kind of hear some of the differences. Now, most of them, no one's saying really anything too newsworthy, but it's interesting just to hear the perspective, what these people think of Oklahoma, and of course, a lot of these guys OU's going to play this year, so that makes it really interesting for us to get to travel to these places and learn about these guys.
Don't forget, every post-game, we have the little wrap-up that we do standing up. Today was outside on the balcony. Should be fun, so check that out. Again, si.com/college/Oklahoma is the website, or just Google Sooners on SI. We're going to have a new URL for you guys, hopefully by the end of the week. But tomorrow will be Thursday, day 4 of SEC Media Days. We're going to be here one more day. We're all kind of winding down. We're all kind of wearing down a little bit. So I don't think we're going to podcast tomorrow. I think we're going to be focused on getting the heck home. You guys,
amen.
You guys don't know. I've been in Alaska for 28 days. I've been on a trip to Alaska for 28 days, and then first thing I do when I get home is have to come back to Dallas for SEC Media Days.
I moved into a new house, and then the next day came down for SEC Media Days.
There you go.
I didn't do any of that. I've been at home.
He took Scout the dog to his parents' house and came to SEC Media Days, because that's what Ryan does.
Watch out for tomorrow, though. If you're interested in learning about one of OU's opponents for the season, Auburn dost go tomorrow.
Yeah, should be fun. You've got a story coming on Auburn. That you've been working on.
It's
all week.
cursed.
It's going to be fun. Going to be a fun fourth day here at SEC Media. Did I say that right?
Yes,
SEC Media
yes,
Days.
we're
I did.
here.
Yes.
We did it.
Got to double check, triple check. Hey, for Ryan Chapman, for Randall Sweet, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.